So this vlog is going to be about how doing Qigong on different surfaces affects the practice. So this one was another request from someone who watches the channel, and so I am going to read out what they asked to help me keep on track with it. So just give me a little moment here. I'll get this. Here we go. All right. So this is what they asked. They said, I do have one question. Oh no, that's not the one. I've got a little bit of a list here. This is what they asked. They said, would you please do a vlog on how doing Qigong on different surfaces affects the practice? If it is relevant, please include a list of surfaces in order of what is best, e.g. the ground, wood, concrete, stone, carpet, laminate, rubber, etc. All right, so a few different sort of ideas of surfaces that you could practice on. I'll start by talking, I think, in general terms about the effect that different surfaces that we stand or possibly sit or even lie on have on our Qigong practice. Different, broad things that we may consider, and then talk about maybe how some of those different surfaces fit into that. So the first thing that we really want to consider in terms of different surfaces is how just the physical nature of that surface impacts on our body, just on our physical body, let alone thinking too much about the energy system, because guess what? Our body and our energy is connected. They do affect each other. And so simple things like how hard the surface is has a significant impact. So if a surface is too hard, well, this is then going to be, it's going to be challenging for the body in terms of dealing with that hard surface when we're standing, when we're moving on it. It means there's going to be sharper impact as we shift our weight on it and so on, which is going to cause stress up through the body. And often that's not going to be desirable. On the other hand, if a surface is too soft, well, this may present challenges for our balance, for our stability. Now, a little bit of challenge for our balance, for our stability could be quite useful. But in other practices, having too much of an unstable surface underneath us will be detrimental to the practice, because it will mean so much of our effort is going to the stability. Maybe we're then losing our balance and we're not able to allow our energy to flow freely. So often what we're looking for is a happy balance between these two things. A surface that is firm enough to give us stability, but maybe has at least a little bit of give within it so that it's not too hard on our body. Another consideration, so I'll go through several of these just very physical things, is the temperature of the surface that we might be on. So how hot or cold it is. If it's too cold, what will happen is our body will contract to keep the warmth within our body so we don't lose too much of our internal heat into that surface. And that will then affect our energy flow. So a surface that's too cold can be detrimental to our practice. Similarly, a surface that's too hot, we're going to retract away from in order to protect ourselves. And that can constrict the surface, and even the internals of our body so the energy doesn't flow so well. So again, we're often looking for a happy balance somewhere in between. And it's not like there's one magical point, like not one magical point of how hard or how soft or how warm or how cold. There's going to be a range that is going to be comfortable, workable for us to work with. And ideally, we're going to find a surface that does that for us. Related to this, other physical qualities. So sometimes how smooth or how sharp a surface is. So if a surface is too smooth, we might slip on it too easily, which for different movements, for different postures, could mean that we have to put extra strain through our body to avoid slipping, which then means that we can't move as freely as we would like to within the practice. On the other hand, if a surface is too rough to the point of being sharp, well, again, our body may contract to pull away from that in order to keep our body safe, which will then potentially interrupt the flow of energy as well. Another thing to consider. What substances are on that surface? So there are some substances in our environment which are very beneficial for us. You know, some of the things released by plants and things like that, for that to be on our skin and for our skin to gently absorb some of that, that's quite healthy. That can be quite a nice and beneficial thing. On the other hand, there can be things that are toxic in our environment in different ways. Pure chemical toxicity, but also things like bacteria that may be harmful to us and so on. That if we expose our skin to that, one, either our body, again, has to send a lot of energy to the surface to contract it, constrict it possibly, to stop that from penetrating within us, to protect us from the influence of whatever that toxic substance is. Or worse, we don't do that and we allow that to enter into our system and it has a detrimental effect. So, you know, just physical things that we want to consider. We want to find a balance between all of these things in order to have, you know, the best type of surface for us to practice on. Moving beyond that, we have energetic qualities, or the way our energy will connect to flow through the energy that we may draw from a surface that we practice on. There's different aspects to this. Part of this is pure conductivity, because of course, as part of our practice, you know, naturally part of our healthy functioning is to have energy flowing not just within us, but connected to the environment around us. And the primary connections are down to the earth below us and up to heaven above us, a yin and yang connection, and to allow this energy to flow through us. And then of course we also have a connection to the energy all around us as well. If the surface we're standing, sitting, lying on is an insulating surface, so one that doesn't conduct energy through it well, and this is different types of energy. It can be electrical energy, it can be heat, it can even be vibration if these things don't move through that material well, easily. This is going to make it more challenging for our energy to connect to the energy of the earth underneath us, and to allow that energy connection to support us in our practice. Not impossible. So we do have the ability for our energy to connect through any substance. It certainly is possible, but the more insulating qualities it has, the more challenging it is for our energy to connect through that. So that's something to have some awareness of. Some surfaces will conduct much better than others. Other qualities that may come from what we're standing on relate to qualities of yin and yang. So heat and cool, you know, that's one of a primary yin and yang quality. Sometimes we might want to connect to a cooling energy, in which case having a cool surface to practice on is going to be really useful. Other times we might be wanting to build the yang. And so having a yang surface to connect to that warmth, that yang energy, is going to be beneficial in supporting what we're aiming to do, or the support our energy system needs, hot and cold. It can go further than this into the qualities of the 5 elements as well, though. So the qualities of water, well, guess what? That's often going to come from water. So even standing in water or on a damp surface is going to give us more of a connection to that water quality, and that may support something within our practice. The quality of wood is going to come from standing on plants, right? Or, I mean, certainly amongst them, but even on them as well. So standing on the grass, or if there's not grass, if you're, you know, underneath trees, because where there's a lot of trees, often there's not grass, but then there will be, there'll often be bark and things like that, and that's going to actually give us some qualities of the wood element. Standing on the bare dirt, useful for the earth element. Standing on coals for fire, no, not so much. but certainly, you know, that fire is going to often come through in other ways, certainly in terms of the temperature of the surface being warm, possibly practicing in sunlight and so on. So that one maybe not so much in terms of that surface. And then the qualities of the metal element. This is going to come through in standing on, on metal, potentially. Not so common to do that. But standing on, so the metal element relates very much to the mountains. And so standing on certain types of rock can bring metal qualities into our practice. Depends on the type of rock. Some rocks have more of a metal quality, some have more of an earth quality. So yeah, it depends on what that rock is composed of. So all of these different factors can go into, well, they all affect our Qigong practice, the surfaces that we stand on. So what is the best one? As with so many things, depends what you're trying to do. What's the best one? But there's going to be a range of surfaces that are suitable that you want to be within, that you don't want to go outside of that, because that's not going to be helpful. But somewhere in this range, this is good. Outside the range, not good. That's actually going to interfere with your practice. So if you can choose, most of the time it's preferable to stand on some kind of natural surface. So on the grass, that's awesome. If you've got a nice, clean, comfortable piece of grass to stand on, great. On sand, that can be really nice. It's not too hot, not too cold, that can be great. But even indoors, if you can, a wooden surface, that's going to be really nice. You've got some, something natural that's going to make your energy connection more gentle, more smooth. But even things like a woolen carpet or a rug or cotton fabric, all of these things give you something natural to stand on, if that's a possibility. Moving out beyond that, we are going to, we're not always going to have the ideal environment for us to stand on, sit on, to practice on. And so even if we don't have an ideal surface, we can look at ways to mitigate that so that we make it a comfortable and suitable surface for us. So for example, concrete. Concrete is not great to stand and practice on for a couple of reasons. The main one really being because it's too hard, and that's a bit challenging on our joints, on the tissues of our body, to spend a lot of time standing on it. Certainly standing barefoot and moving on it barefoot puts excess strain through the body. A little bit is fine, but a lot, not ideal. So what can we do about that? We can do things like put a mat down where we practice. So we're not standing directly on the concrete, we're standing on a mat. Or we can practice wearing shoes. Right, and this applies to lots of different surfaces. Some surfaces are going to be great for us to just be barefoot and connect to more strongly. Other surfaces, like, the surface isn't quite really what we want. So we can wear shoes as a way to make it suitable. And this applies to surfaces that are too dirty, too sharp, too slippery, too rough, too hot, too cold, all these sorts of things. A simple solution is to wear suitable shoes for that. Now there's different types of shoes that you can wear. There's a separate vlog actually where I go into the best type of footwear for Qigong. So rather than getting into the different types of footwear that you could wear, I might just put a link to that vlog in the description below, and you can check that one out as well. Anyway, I hope I did that topic justice. Maybe it's given you some things to think about in terms of the surfaces that you practice on. Look forward to seeing you on another one soon.